Good evening. Welcome to being here.
Yes.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
Oh, fun is not an afterthought.
Well,
it is sometimes, but that's the title of today's
if
episode.
you forget to have fun with whatever you're up to, you're taking life way too seriously.
As this podcast recording started, we began watching our cat, Baby.
And she's seeing what appears to be a flycatcher, which is a type of bird that tends to build its nests on the side of our house.
Which doesn't hurt the house, and we really enjoy watching them. And of course, in case you don't know, flycatchers eat things like black flies and mosquitoes. And so it's nice to have them around because you have less bitey things eating us.
You have your own security force out there.
Yeah, it's our Air Force.
Our Air Force. They fly around catching all the things that want to bite us.
Pat has been so engaged, and it's so much fun to watch that level of fascination and engagement and preparation, even though she will never touch them because she's an indoor cat.
Mm-hmm. And they're outdoor birds.
They're outdoor birds. And ne'er the twain shall meet.
That's our intent.
I love this Oscar Wilde quote.
Please read it to us.
Life is too important to be taken seriously.
I agree.
And in our lives, there are complex situations, really sad moments.
Circumstances show up that we would not prefer.
And yet there's the possibility of meeting your life with a lightheartedness, even in the most serious of situations.
Right.
You want to talk about anything like listening or?
Well, listening is always a good idea because it brings you into the moment and makes life a lot less serious.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so easy to get lost in thinking. We were talking about that last week with our guests, and it's fun to see how when you get here, all of that mental machinations fall away.
Yes. Yeah. And then you can see the flowers.
Yeah.
I picked my first daffodil.
Yes, we're recording this early in the season, and Shai picked us a really beautiful daffodil.
Actually, I picked it for you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And I put it on your side because I have it worked on my side.
Yeah, you have enough stuff on your side.
Yeah, I do. I figured we could share the wealth. Should we take our first guest?
Let's.
All right, let's do that. Marin, welcome to being here.
Thank you. Hi. I'm Marin. I'm in Nürtingen in the southwest of Germany at the moment. This is my parents' place where I grew up.
Nice. And you were telling us your dad's in the hospital right now?
Yeah. Yeah. And the amazing thing is that, of course, there were moments of trauma and suffering and pain and insecurity and fear and everything that goes with illnesses, especially at a certain age. But I just so admire him. He always finds a moment to have fun.
That's great.
It's just incredible. And I've been noticing over the past months how strong that seriousness culture is that we've grown up in. It's really first work and then play. But then when work is done or your to-do list is sort of done, I often feel there's no more time to play. Or I'm cranky and tired and I don't want to play,
Well, maybe you could bring a lightness or fun to those things that you now consider chores or work.
I have a number of projects in the mix right now. And so you could, if I had them all on a to-do list, which I don't always, I more have an organic approach to things. The to-do list is long, but I have had so much fun today answering emails and completing things and printing out invoices that I need to bring with me to, we're paying a venue and setting it up so I don't have to have the same questions about what the rooms look like in a place that we're renting next year. I made a whole list for myself so that it's handled for, I just am popping down to do laundry, and then we had lunch, and it's been this weaving of fun as opposed to, oh God, I got to do that now. Oh, the laundry's done. I better, yeah. It's like, oh, the laundry's done. I get to run downstairs, more steps. I mean, I don't know what happened, but today has been really lively.
Great. Yeah. Recently at work, and I'm a conference interpreter. I'm working for a number of political institutions and clients. Recently, I found that what was depressing was not the fact of going to work or anything. It was just the fact that what is discussed is really upsetting, like war and climate crisis. And if I feel like if it goes on and on every day, I feel how can I, like in the lunch break, go to the park with colleagues and have a chat and have fun? It feels not right to do so. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I know what you mean. I really do know what you mean, but I don't believe I agree with you. You see, you can get lost in the drama. Maren, darling.
Yes.
You only have this moment to live. Worrying about the outcome of wars or the environment is a waste of your life in this moment. I know on some level we should be politically or interested in what's happening on our planet. But before the electronic age that showed up about 50 years ago, when I was a kid, so it's about 70 years ago, maybe, or a little more than that, maybe 75 years ago, we got a television set as a kid. That was a big electronic thing. Before that, there was radios. But, now everything comes to you via your iPhone or some device immediately, and the world situation is terrible. In the past, the world situation was terrible. There were famines, people were dying, but you didn't hear about it, so you didn't worry about it or think about it. Now you've got all this stuff in your face, and if you're a responsible person, you should think about it and worry about it, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe if you're being responsible, you should be alive in this moment, because this is where your life is taking place. And worrying about what you can't do anything about just upsets it all further.
It's quite, I know back in some of the world wars, there were all of these slogans like, do your bit, do your part. People did what they could in whatever country they were in to support the war effort. You're doing that. You are translating in important summits about climate change or details about the war. So people who are poised to be able to take action can. So in a certain respect, when you take lunch, it's almost irresponsible not to have fun. If you don't recharge your battery over lunch, if you worry about the things that you're talking about, you're not poised to be able to articulate what the speakers are talking about because you're taking on their job as yours.
That's true. I never thought about that. That's so true.
And then you'll micro think and you'll stutter over things, or you won't have the level of smoothness you have when you're not invested in the topic that you're speaking about.
Yeah, true.
And the reality, Maren, is that you can do nothing about what's happening in the world. Really, in this moment, you can do less than nothing about it. However, go ahead. Except for how you bring yourself into the moment affects everybody around you. It affects your son. It affects the people you interact with on a daily basis. It affects your father in the hospital.
Well, let's talk about your father for a minute. Here you are telling us just a little piece of what's happening with him without giving personal details away that he might not want out there. But when you think about him and you touch on him, you are inspired by how he's being. And here you are in a totally different place than he is. You're not doing this podcast from the hospital, yet how he's being makes a difference. And it gives me goosebumps. So the quality of your life matters. And worrying about those things you cannot, as an individual, change only diminishes your light into the world.
That's true. Yeah.
And I also I often think about people who go to war, like the United States have wars. I know there are this horrific events in Ukraine, for a couple of examples. And I often think people are fighting for the possibility to have what we have. And to be able to, I'm sitting with Shia in our beautiful office, and there are no bombs going on outside. So in a certain respect, I think it's my job to allow myself to enjoy what I have, because that's what they're fighting for.
Okay. Right.
And I know there are people out there who have no clue I exist, but I do not, my experience is how I'm being in the world matters.
And so worrying and getting upset over what you cannot do anything about is not being responsible.
Right.
Really. Being irresponsible. If you're being responsible, you're appreciating the gift of this moment of your life, that you're alive, things you're interested in. That's so cool. So worrying about what you can't do anything about just brings you down. It brings everybody down. And if down is what you want, well, that's a good way to go about it. But if you want aliveness, then engage in this moment like it's your life, because this is where your life is taking place, exactly how it is, with the limitations that exist upon you in this moment.
That's great.
Gift it is to have you on this particular episode of Being Here, because your job entails very important things. If somebody is in a summit to talk about climate change and they can't understand the speaker because they don't speak the language, and you do the job well so that they can get the essence and the details of what's being talked about, that's a very important job. And I love that you are investigating how to approach your life, including the fact that you have things and you're regularly engaged in topics that are considered weighty and are weighty and matter. So there's something it's just such a gift for you to take a look at how you can go out at lunch and maybe not only have fun, but provide respite for everybody else who's been grappling with having to translate these challenging topics.
Great. Thank you. That's cool. Thank you.
And before we go, just our best to your dad.
Yes.
Really.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Okay, here we go. It's time for our listener feedback spotlight, where we hear from one of our listeners about how transformation has impacted her life or his life.
If you want to learn more about our seminars, any of the upcoming virtual courses, visit transformationmadeeasy.com.
That is transformation made easy, easy.com.
I love it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric in Brooklyn, and transformation to me means being good at relationship without having to work so hard, just being naturally good at it.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
Well, we have some things coming up in the near future. On Saturday, May 13th, there's a Living Made Easy virtual seminar. It's 2 hours long. And then on Monday, May 15th, there's another virtual Living Made Easy seminar. That's in the evening from 7 to 9 Eastern Time. We also have an in-person seminar coming up in Hamburg, Germany.
Yay.
It's the first time in about 3.5 years, I believe, that we've been able to have an in-person seminar in Hamburg because of COVID.
On Thursday, the May 25th, we are holding the Freedom to Breathe seminar. And then the weekend,
We have fun as the access way to enlightenment.
that's Friday, bless you, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can come to either or both. There's a discount if you want to attend both. Our next virtual seminar
Is being boldly you. It's a virtual seminar. It's June 24th and 25th. That's a Saturday and Sunday.
You can find out about our seminars and register on our amazing website. Shout out to Tag Online, who creates, manages, produces our website. It's very detailed. I'm also very excited that recently we've started all of our blog posts are now being translated, speaking of translators, into German. So whenever somebody writes something that's inspirational, our German readers can read it in that language as well. So shout out to our translation.
Well, not only our German readers, but our Swiss readers who speak German.
That's right. So you can find our blog. You can get our newsletter.
At transformationmadeeasy.com.
That includes signing up for seminars.
That's
Let's
everything.
take our next guest. Shall we?
Okay, Dorothy.
All right, Dorothy. Welcome to being here. And please tell people where you're zooming in from.
Hi, I'm living in New York City and I'm calling in from there.
Nice. Welcome
Wow.
to being here.
You know,
Thank
it's really interesting, Dorothy. You said, I'm living in New York City. You know, to you, it's normal to live in New York City because you've been living there for years.
Yep.
I used to live in New York City, and it was normal for me to live in New York City. But for a lot of people around the world, and via these podcasts, people all over the world are able to listen in. And for somebody, you take living in New York City for granted
And you ready?
and not very special.
You ready for a fun fact?
Yes.
I lived in New York City for probably about 8 years, maybe a little longer. And primarily in the area called Hell's Kitchen. I know Shy and I eventually moved to Park Avenue on the other side, but I went to school down where you live, because you live in the Greenwich Village area. And all those years, I envied anybody who got to live where you live. That was my ideal. So when Shai says you take it for granted, early Ariel would have loved to live where you do.
That's right.
I love it too.
Mm.
I sometimes think of moving elsewhere, but then I like, where is it going to be better than Greenwich Village? So, and fun is a funny concept for me, because I recently I lost my cat and I had to put her down, and so I feel grief about that. And how can I have fun and be grieving? It's
Well, in one respect, you can't. See, you can only do one thing at a time. So I'm not suggesting that you should have fun with your grieving process. But what you're grieving about is a life lost, a life that inspired you.
And a life well lived.
So that if you celebrate that life, you're honoring your little furry friend. And if you are miserable, well, certainly that wasn't what she provided you. Misery wasn't what she provided you.
You know, we spoke with you in the last days as it was as your cat's Sarah, and we'll give her name, we'll give her her due, as Sarah was declining, and it wasn't clear whether or not there were any actions you could take that would allow her to continue having a life that was not a painful existence, and that you and the veterinarian were going to have a discussion to look at what was the best for her. And I know, as difficult as it was for you, you went the route that felt the most honorable
and humane
to her. There's something about that, Dorothy, in this wealth and richness of sadness that goes with the loss of a really dear friend, because you were telling us how she was always such a cheery cat.
She was.
And when I say that, you smile.
Yeah.
So it's not like fun, but at the same time, there's wealthy richness in experiencing what's here, or you can take it down into a cauldron of misery.
You know, there was a time, and in many places on the planet that probably still exists, when somebody passed away, the people that were left behind wore black clothing and were miserable for a period of time, like a year. And as that was the right way to honor. But I don't know that that's the right way to honor. You're having a brilliant life might be the right way to honor. You're being well in yourself and enjoying being alive might be the best way to honor, rather than feeling bad, feeling sorry for yourself. It's a very, feeling upset about the loss of someone is a very selfish thing, because they're not feeling the loss, you are. So rather than feel loss, you get yourself miserable, and that's of no value. I mean,
I've heard it other different places, but the person who strikes me the most is that, like, I hear it, the voice in my head is Anina, whom you know, a member of the transformational community, if there are such a thing as members, but someone from Switzerland who we adore. I believe it was around the time that her father passed away and she was going through the grieving process. She always talks about how pain is inevitable, misery is optional.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there's something about that lifts the corners of my lips, because I was just thinking about it today. It was 11:11. I noticed on the clock, and 11:11 was the time. I was actually in the evening, the exact minute when my mom passed away. And somehow 11:11 is supposed to be a, in esoteric circles, a very special time where the angels are available. So somehow I latched onto that. Whenever I see 11:11, there's some part of me, I just stop and I honor my mom.
Mhm.
It's so rich. And I'm a busy gal. And it's so easy to get into a forward momentum in my life, and to give myself a minute of celebrating that life has been so yummy for me. And occasionally, 11:11, like it actually happened yesterday. Shai and I were in the middle of shopping. When I looked down, it was 11:11. I'm in the middle of Whole Foods. I was not going to stop and stand with my eyes closed in the middle of the canned goods aisle. I had my eyes open. I continued doing what I was doing, but I was, still enjoying that possibility.
I get an image of a switchboard that it's like an emotional switchboard, and it's up to me to choose. Do I plug in to the joyful memories or plug into the misery? And it's
Well, that's a very good choice.
I saw your switchboard. It was like watching, one ringy ding. I'm like, the switchboard. That is such a cool analogy, like where you put your plug.
But that's
Wow.
your choice, you see. When in doubt, when you don't know what to do, you can either plug into being miserable, or you can plug into looking around and seeing what in your life you want to invest in.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
The other thing is this, Dorothy, we're getting older,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't mean we're any less alive.
Right.
See, we're no less alive in this moment than we were when we were kids. Now, life has got its up and downs, and your preferences weren't always met. And so for most people, they've shut off their aliveness at a fairly early age. And as they get older, they look forward to the end as a way of finding some peace. I said for most people, not for all of us. I suggest you go for your life. And that your cat, Sarah, was an extension of your life. And she was joyous in your space, in your environment that you provided. So I think you have a joyous environment to jump into, as opposed to feeling sorry for yourself that you've lost something. And,
Shana yesterday, Dorothy, went in for a doctor's appointment. We've been doing these infusions of supplements and vitamins and other things to detox and also regain our health. It's been a while since we've had
COVID.
Really robust physical health. COVID is still we're still feeling its effects. And when we were in there, Jackie, who is the nurse there, said, we love having you guys in here. You always come in. You're never miserable. You never make us miserable. You're not complaining. You just are here. And it's so wonderful. It's always so wonderful. We're always laughing, and sometimes I have small veins. And sometimes when she puts a needle in me, it really hurts. And I have so much fun seeing if I can breathe into it and not punish her for my pain. And it's awesome. And what can I do before I come in? I've found if I actually hydrate a lot before I come in, it's far less sensational. So if I have sensation when I go in, it's generally on me anyway. So our whole life is ours rather than being done to us. And that includes that she's seen us after my mom died, after my dad died, after our son died. And we didn't have to visit misery on ourselves or on her. And we were truly sad to be true.
Oh, I like that one can be truly sad, but it's not about throwing it on other people and dramatizing it. It's just.
One can be truly sad, and you don't have to be sad about it.
That's
really sweet.
Because there's sad, and then there's like the dramatization of sad that we do to prove to ourselves that we cared.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, sad was not a constant state, meaning I could access a room of sadness, but there were moments where, in a heavy thunderstorm, you're not aware that you lost something. You're just in the midst of this thunderstorm. So I can't speak to your programming, but I know that for me, there was at least some pressure to be consistently sad in order to have been a loving.
To prove that you were a loving daughter or mother.
Yes, and that you cared, and that I cared.
Yeah.
So you can care deeply, and you don't have to be sad as an end product of loss.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
You can feel what you're feeling, and it may not be sadness. That may be a word you place on the feeling, but it's okay to feel what you're feeling, without making yourself miserable for being there.
When we start these podcasts today, shout out to our, first of all, shout out to all of the people who step in and help us produce this and record it. And today is Michelle, and we came in, we were listening, and he talks about, when you come in, Dorothy, introduce yourself, say where you are, etc. And how the show is going to run, or the podcast is going to run. And then he asked, do you have a question, or do you have something you want to talk about? And you had this moment, and I said, don't worry, Dorothy. We know you have something to talk about. And you said, thank you. And you said, I love you. This sadness has opened, what you're calling sadness, has opened a portal to your heart, because I felt your love.
I fight that. I fight loving that. I feel I should be strong and over emotion.
You are strong. To allow yourself to love takes great strength.
Takes courage. The other thing, we did a course at Camp Tecumseh, Being Alive. And right before the course, we were listening to an audiobook. And in the audiobook, there was a reference to a quote by Tecumseh, who was an Indian chief,
an American
Indian chief who was the head of all the different tribes up in the Northeast. And the quote was this:
a twig breaks easily, but a bundle of twigs is strong.
And somehow, when you allow yourself to love, you link in. And then you link in and you link in, and there's a strength in that, not only in the courage to allow yourself to experience what you really experience, but as a collective, you're not standing alone with the loss of Sarah, just like I was not standing alone with the loss of my parents, or we weren't standing alone with the loss of our son. There was a whole host of caring people who were basically wrapping their arms around us, and we were standing in the center of that bundle.
Oh. That's beautiful. And I've already I've felt that just from support of other folks like you guys who know what it's like to lose a cat and or a pet or anyone loved, and the loss, and that can pull us together rather than be an isolating factor. That's
Well, you know, it is up to you.
It is up to you.
It's always up to you. You know, it's up to you. How you experience living is up to you, really. And that where the courage comes in, to be boldly you when life is not showing up the way you would prefer.
Yeah, and I have to say, over these different examples of loss that I gave, there were moments where a wave of emotion would come and I might cry or really feel something. And then there were moments when none of that was in the foreground. And it's important you allow yourself to be exactly as you are. And
not as you think you should be. So if you are experiencing the loss of Sarah and you're smiling, that's how you are in that moment.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be sad if there's joy there that's left behind from your fellow traveler moving on.
Yeah. I see a sort of temptation to go toward guilt, like, oh, I should have done better, or, you know, but I did the best I could. She had the best life I could give her. It was the right time.
You know, as you're saying that, you're actually articulating exactly the thought process that came with the loss of our son. You know, you have the idea, oh, could I have done better? Could I have prevented this? Is there something I could have done? And
the answer is no. The answer is you did exactly everything that you could have and everything that you couldn't have.
Right. Yeah.
You did your best. That's all you can never do.
And she was a sweet friend, and she deserved not to suffer anymore. So
absolutely.
Well, we made that choice with our son too. He was a sweet friend, a sweet man, and we could have kept him alive. But if he ever, you know, continued, he would never be able to sit up or feed himself. His very, very best prognosis was to be able to move a finger. Perhaps, and blink, perhaps, but not as a given. And knowing that he would not want to live that way, it was, as a family, we all dealt with our pain and gave him relief by allowing him to go.
Yeah.
I bet people who tuned in for Fun Is Not an Afterthought didn't expect this topic. But you know, life happens in an unexpected way. It's got serious things in it, like with Marin, or loss, like with you. And then here we are.
Yeah.
Opportunity to see you, and it's exquisite.
And having an opportunity to be with you. And that's an awesome gift, Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And you and this, what you do is an awesome gift.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My life. Yeah.
Sweet, very sweet.
Again, I love you.
Mm.
It's
As they say in, well, some
It's
doesn't
mutual.
quite work.
It's
It is
mutual.
mutual. It is. It really is.
yeah.
So I have another shout out, and that's to all the people in our podcast listenership who keep going, have the courage to keep going, including everything that's going on in your life. And we appreciate you. We're happy you're listeners. If you want to join us here and be a guest, you're welcome. If you'd like to submit a listener spotlight, which is the little self-expression from different listeners in the middle of the podcast, you're welcome to do that. Just go to transformationmadeeasy.com/being here and find out how. Next week's episode is in celebration. Get this. We've been doing this podcast for 16 years.
So it's sweet 16.
We'll be back next week. So come on back.
And don't miss
Being here.